on text.
All right.
And it's a very good morning to the Gelding Blue Diamond Stakes Day. The weather is good. What else could be better at Sandown Lakeside or Hillside Track? That is the question.
Good morning, Professor. Good morning, listeners. A different Blue Diamond this year, Professor.
Yeah, not at
all I can say, only the Melbourne Racing Club could do what's happening today.
What's happening today, Gelding?
Well, 9 race program, 3 Group 1s, 5 million in prize money. So Melbourne Racing Club to decide, let's run it on 3 different tracks. Let's have 3 different courses.
How does that happen, Gelding?
Well, I'm reading my form guide, Professor, and it's got Sandown Lakeside.
Correct.
Which, for punters, as we know, is the inner track at Sandown. But then we get down to the fine print, Professor. The terms and conditions. Lakeside, race 1, race 2, race 3, race 4. No mention of race 5 or 6. Race 7 and 8, back on the Lakeside. And then no mention of race 9. So you go down the terms and conditions, and race 5 and 6 are on the Hillside track, the outer track. Now, for the listeners, the difference there is that the Hillside's the outer track and the inner. So the straight in the Lakeside track is a lot shorter than the straight in the Hillside track. But then, just to confuse us even more, Professor, the Melbourne Racing Club decide, well, we'll have the Oakley Plate, race 9, out of the chute, which is on the Hillside track, and we'll make the straight even longer. We won't use the first finishing line. We'll use the second finishing line, 80 metres past the major finishing line at Sandown, Professor. So that makes a straight and up the hill even longer. So, it's going to be a very interesting Oakley Plate. I don't think which may fancy the horses that get a bit further back, Professor. But so rather a confusing day. When you look at the Lakeside track, you think it's on the Lakeside. Just be a little bit careful in races 5 and 6, and of course race 9.
Well, Gelding, if
and
you
then to add even further to that, Professor.
Yes.
The Blue Diamond Stakes running around the curve on the Lakeside track. All the pro utes, they used out of the chute on the Hillside track. So let's give the 2-year-olds a completely new look for the final of the Blue Diamond than the lead-up races.
Oh, it's only a Group 1 worth $2 million, Gelding.
Only the very amateur turf club, Professor.
Well, Gelding, hopefully the jockeys won't get confused by the chopping and changing.
Well, let's hope not, Professor, but even more confusing would be the news that you broke during the week with the new innovations for racing.
Suggested new innovations, Gelding.
Well, maybe you might have informed the listeners on the new suggested innovation to racing.
Well, the suggested innovation to racing was that the trainers during the race have the capacity to communicate with the jockeys while they're riding their horses. And not only that a la the Grand Prix, that if you're watching the races, let's say on Sky Racing, you get to listen in.
Oh, dear. Could you imagine a trainer yelling at a jockey for a minute? as if they've got it out last, giving the horse in front 10 lengths start.
Well, it'll make for more interesting steward inquiries.
Well, don't get me started on that, Professor.
All right, Gelding. Well, we better start.
No, I've got another one, Professor.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yes.
Did you know in Melbourne last week there was the Asian Racing Festival?
No, I didn't, Gelding. No.
All administrators kind of getting together to talk about the forums and ways to improve racing. The only thing I've seen of it or heard of it is they threw themselves a big gala dinner and had entertainment on the screen. And the chairman of the board who was running the Asian thing put out on YouTube him dancing with the artists. Again, administrators spending money on themselves, Professor.
Should be spent on
and
racing.
Having
Gelding.
a good time.
It should be put towards prize money for the owners.
Professor, what these guys say, what they call it, what barristers do.
Oh, yes. Double briefing.
Or pigs in troughs.
Gelding. That's
all
right, Gelding.
No.
You're being controversial.
What, people who contribute nothing but take all the benefits?
Well, they would suggest that they do contribute, Gelding.
Do they?
No, they would suggest that.
They would suggest that.
I didn't say we'd agree with them. They would suggest that.
Or they'd so advise that, Professor.
They would so advise, Gelding. All right. Now, listen, you were right about group racing. There's 9 races, 8 are group races. 3 Group 1s, 3 Group 2s, 2 Group 3s. How often do you get a race meeting, Gelding, where the worst race on the card's a listed race?
Professor, this is, for the Melbourne Racing Club, this is one of their best meetings of the year, probably just behind Caulfield Guineas Day. But this is their main race day during the autumn carnival, Professor. And as good a racing as you see. Group 1 racing for 2-year-olds, weight for age horses. And, of course, you've got the time-honoured Oakley Plate, which I find is a bit short on prize money, Professor. 750,000 for a time-honoured Group 1.
I would have thought it would be worth at least $1 million, closer to 1,500,000, Gelding.
I think that would be the appropriate funds for that a type of race, and for a field that they've attracted, Professor. Some very, very good sprinters, but you're not getting, of course, the how would you say, the top class, Anyway, we'll leave that one alone, Professor.
All right,
but
Gelding.
It's a very, very good race.
All right, Gelding. Give us your 2 best bets for today's races.
Well, Professor, as I said before off air, I will say to punters, just be a bit careful. The 2 races I've gone for are race 7 and race 8, which are both on the lakeside. The first one's the Blue Diamond Stakes, which, again, the form is all on the hillside track. So be a bit careful. But, look, I'm going for Barber, Professor. Race 7, number 1. James Cumming, Jamie Carr, showing $5.50. 3 starts, 3 win. James Cumming said it was his number 1 seed a couple of weeks ago for the Blue Diamond. We've been on a Professor and won. So we're staying the same. Race 7, number 1. Extremely worried about number 12, Steel City, which trained by Mar Eustace and ridden by Blake Shin, who's in fine form, Professor. It's had 2 starts for 2 seconds up in Sydney, Professor, and they've been behind horses that have been favourite for the Golden Slippers. So Mar Eustace have brought it down for the Blue Diamond. So that'd be the danger. But look, we've been on Barber before, an unbeaten horse. Jamie Carr, the Blue Army, all ticks for me. So we will go race 7, number 1, Barber. We'll follow that up with Professor, race 8, number 2, Alligator Blood, in the Futurity Stakes over 1400. Weight for age, Group 1. Alligator Blood has been a horse that we've been on many times, Professor. Trained by Gay Waterhouse, ridden by Blake Shin. Should jump to the lead in this race. And be able to control them over the 1400. Look, it's won at Sandown, Professor. First up, Alligator Blood. Form reads very, very well. First up, 6 starts for 2 wins, a second and a third. On the track, it says it hasn't raced on the track. It hasn't raced on the Sandown Lakeside track, but it has won on the Sandown Hillside track, Professor. Beating a lot of these horses last time in on Thunderstruck and Mr. Brightside. Look, good quality horses it's up against. Happy to be on Alligator Blood, but worried about a few horses. I'm Thunderstruck, Mr. Brightside, and my O'Brien, Professor, number 6, could be one at odds for the listeners. So, Professor, my 2 are later in the day. And again, worried about when this rain's going to hit Sandown. Obviously, the change is coming. So my 2 tips are race 7, number 1, and race 8, number 2. And you like, Professor?
Yeah, Gelding, I'm going a little bit earlier than your tips. Hopefully my races might be out of the way before the change comes through. Race 4, the Sedative Stakes, a Group 3 for 3-year-olds over 1,200 metres. I like in that race, Gelding, horse 3, Rich Fortune, coming out of barrier 9. Lightly raced, only had 3 starts for 2 wins and a placing, so a 67% win rate, 100% place rate. It won a Group 3 at the track the last start and beat one of the fancied horses in this race, Queen of the Ball. So that's excellent form. It actually ran on the Hillside track, but this time it'll be on the Lakeside track.
Yeah, a bit confusing when you look at the track stats, Professor, and it says no starts for nothing, but, it has raced at Sandown, so, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it's currently showing $5 and $1.80, Gelding. This morning I got $6 and $1.85. So if we can get that one up, it'll be very nice.
Very nice start to the parlays, Professor.
Yes, Gelding, and the horse trained by Jerome Hunter, not a trainer we talk about a lot, out of the Mornington stables. He's in career form, Gelding. His career, over his whole career, 12% win rate, but over the last 50, Gelding, 28%.
Going very well down at Mornington. Craig Williams was aboard this horse last time, rode it beautifully. Horse has come back in fine form, Professor. 2 wins from a spell. Geez, I like your tip. 6-1 each way all day, Professor. There's going to be a winning chance. Bit of a danger, Jamie Carr's mount in Spacewalk.
Yes, I did consider that, Gelding. But I just thought, I had a look at the video on Rich Fortune. It really fought onto the line, and its sectionals were very good.
I like the tip, Professor. A good start for our parlays.
Yep, and my second tip, Gelding, in race 5, the Autumn Classic, a Group 2 for 3-year-olds over 1,800 metres. In that race, Gelding, I like horse 2, Pericles, coming out of barrier 7, also lightly raced, 5 starts for 1 win and 2 placings, so a 20% win rate, a 60% place rate. Second up form's good, 1 start for a second. Last start, it was beaten a length at Sandown on the Hillside course, and it'll be racing on the Hillside course, I think, today, Gelding.
Yes, Professor.
That was in the Group 2 Autumn Stakes, so it can handle the course. Street Boss is the sire. What I like about this horse, Gelding, Jamie Carr in the saddle, 28% win rate over the last 50. James Cumming, 26% win rate over the last 50. Jamie Carr in the Blue Army, very hard to go past, and you can get $3 and $1.45 at the moment, Gelding.
Another good tip, Professor. You left Tennessee Lad alone. One you tipped before.
Yeah, I did leave that one alone, Gelding.
And one last start.
Yeah, I left Mr. Maestro alone as well.
Yes, one of your trainers, Andrew Forsman, Professor.
Yes, I did see that, Gelding. I did see that. I had a look at the last race and I didn't like it. So hopefully I'm not. I know it's only my opinion, but hopefully my opinion will be standing up at the end of the day. Maybe not.
Professor, 2 starts over 1,800 for 2 wins.
Yeah, I know, Gelding.
Oh, okay, but I like him, Professor.
All right. So just to recap, Gelding, my 2 selections, race 4, horse 3, and race 5, horse 2. Turning to the Professor's Parlay, Gelding.
The very, very successful Professor's Parlay.
Yeah, except for the last 2 weeks.
Well, look, yeah.
Well,
after Cabin last week, something was wrong there. I'm waiting to find out. That's too good a horse to finish.
Yeah.
Outside even a place on that, Professor. So that was before, and the week before it wasn't the horse races that mucked us up.
No, it was the Premier League, which we're steering away from, Gelding.
Well done, Professor. You've finally taken my heed of just saying leave that soccer alone.
All right, Gelding, the Professor's Parlay today. Our agreed bet of the days at Randwick, race 8, horse 1, Animo, a favourite horse of ours. And I do believe, Gelding, you think that that's the best horse racing in Australia at the moment. Would that be right?
Oh, yeah, Professor. Get my vote for if you're looking for a horse of the year. Yeah, look at it. It'd certainly get my vote. You look at last preparation, 4 starts and for 3 wins and a 4. You know, won the Cox Plate quite easily. Comes back from a spell, won quite easily last week. It's been prepared, I think, for an overseas campaign. So if the Blue Army think it's their best horse, well, I'm happy to go along with that. But I also like one of their other horses in Secret, Professor, which I said 2 weeks ago to punters to have a parlay on. I'll be doing the same again, Professor. You know, when it certainly doesn't owe me anything. You know, in Secret, Animo had $100 at parlay, collected $340, Professor. So I think that's the way to go.
Very
that
nice.
Would probably be my suggested bet of the day to anyone.
Well, and we do say that the main aim of the Professor's Parlay is to try and ensure that we can get the 3 legs up. So at $1.65 for Animo, we're not too worried about that, just as long as we can be successful.
What's wrong with winning, Professor?
That's exactly right, Gelding.
Okay.
Exactly right.
I'd rather have a short price winner than a piece of paper. And I had a bet with long odds.
All right, Gelding, we'll parlay that into the practice matches in the NRL. Penrith Panthers to beat the Brisbane Broncos. That's currently showing $1.20. And we'll parlay that into the Sydney Roosters to beat the Dolphins, as you said in the warm-up, Gelding, by how far. I'm not too worried about that one. So the win parlay is showing 5-2. The place parlay is showing 3-2. So that's not too bad, Gelding.
Oh, that's good odds, Professor. Your form in the NRL, you know, after talking to Giraffe and everyone like that, has been very, very good. We hope you continue the same form you had in the NFL into the NRL this year, Professor.
Well, that's a great segue, Gelding, because that takes us to Sports Fan Radio tomorrow. You'll be contributing, no doubt, and the show that we look forward to with the Giraffe probably most of all, his 2023 NRL and NRLW season.
Yes. Professor, looking forward to interrogating the Giraffe tomorrow. He's a man who's been out and about. Yes,
yeah. And hopefully he won't be out and about tonight. He'll be working on his selections for tomorrow's program.
I'm sure he will, Professor. He takes a very keen interest in his rugby.
He does, Gelding. Plenty of other things to talk about too. I sent you a column from Robbo in the Herald Sun about Alistair Clarkson, which I gather we might be discussing tomorrow as well.
The bully.
Well, alleged.
Alleged bully,
Yeah.
written by James Hurd's spokesman.
Well, at least he's talking about something else, Gelding.
Finally. Oh, and I'm also interested in talking to the judge, Professor.
Yeah, what are you going to talk to the judge about?
Oh, his footy season this year.
Well, yes, that ran aground yesterday, didn't it?
It did. So be very interesting to get his thoughts on where they're going.
Yeah. All right, Gelding. That's racing today. And until next Saturday, it's good luck.
And good punting.